What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today, you guessed it from the title, I'm gonna be reviewing Avengers Endgame. Whoa, Act Man, you can't go into movie content. What? You're a gamer. You're an epic gamer, and you can't talk about movies or review them. For those of you supremely dedicated to this channel, this will be my first movie review. And depending on how it goes, I may or may not supplement the content on this channel, you know, the big reviews with more discussion type videos and lighter reviews of movies. Obviously from time to time, you know, I don't want to exclude any type of content from this channel just on the basis of what it is. I mean, peanut butter reviews, I might do those someday. What you gotta get is the Adams 100% natural crunchy peanut butter. This stuff, it doesn't get better than this, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you. Makeup tutorials, just let me know. I think I got the face for it, but let me know what you guys think. Now, I'll let you all know when we get into spoilers. I'll have the sirens blaring, all that jazz. So, Endgame as a whole is a very entertaining film for almost everyone. You didn't need to see the previous 18 movies that came out before Infinity War necessarily to enjoy it. I think a nice little recap video will help you, but you probably should see Infinity War prior to seeing Endgame. But with how much these movies have grossed in revenue, who the fuck hasn't seen them? Obviously, you should expect that from a movie sequel. Now, I'm a big action guy, you know, I choreograph those fights, and so to me, I always really pay attention to the fight choreography, and just as you would expect from a Marvel movie, fucking nailed it. If we compare this to Infinity War, it's hard to say, like, you have those smaller battles between a more handful of heroes versus characters I'm not going to explicitly name because of spoilers, and then you have those larger, wide-scale battles, and between the two films, it's hard to say which one's better, but they both do different things, so fight choreography, fight scenes, action, fucking phenomenal in this film. There's a lot of depth to Endgame. I feel like even if you were to see it 2 or 3 times, like, you would still get something out of it each time. Obviously, if you're a huge fan of the MCU, the Marvel characters and universe, this movie is gonna tug at your heartstrings. And if you are a huge fan, you've probably seen the movie already, and now you're just like, Act Man, hey, what do you think? And I'm gonna tell you. But even though someone like me, who isn't super big into superhero films and Marvel movies, I can really appreciate this film. And, you know, I grew up with Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk back in the day. You know, those were films that I saw that I still love to this day. So wherever you are on, like, the scale of fandom, like, not a fan at all, huge fucking fan, I think there is a very consistent level of enjoyment between the two extremes, you know? And I'm somewhere kind of slightly towards the not so much a fan. But, you know, this movie I thought was really fucking great, and it tugged at my heartstrings too, you know? There were times that I was tearing up a little bit. Be prepared to feel is what I'm saying. I mean, obviously the reviews and the ratings and the revenue and just records this film is breaking should convince you to see it, you know? Although if you're absolutely tired of superhero films, maybe stay away. But this is kind of like another one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences that comes to theaters. Well, twice because of Infinity War. But after this, you know, who really knows? I'd say go out and see it if you haven't already or are considering it. So, this is the finale, aptly named Endgame. And it has been over a decade in the making. So much build up to this point. Even if you haven't seen every little story along the way, it's crazy to see this all come to fruition. It was crazy for the first Avengers movie, for the second, for Infinity War, and now the finale is here. So, let's put on our gauntlets, travel back in time, and snap our way straight into this. I think it's no wonder that this film has shot up to the second highest grossing film spot of all time. You know, it really is the fruition of all the work that has been put into this franchise and this universe over the last decade. So that's saying something. There is a lot of love put into this film. And you can feel that because it's over 3 hours long. Length is a bit of an issue, particularly for me because I can't really do anything for 3 hours straight without at least, like, getting up and, like, shifting my brain. Except for sucking dick, I could do that all day. In the theater, you get a bit fatigued by the end, and you're just like, can it be over? Can it be over? But you're still enjoying every minute of it. So it's, you know, it's a weird feeling, but the runtime of Endgame gives it plenty of time to flesh out characters and really develop this story and build up the tension and the final conflict. It allows the film to explore themes and, you know, get very artistic at times. I felt like the cinematography was incredible. There was this one tracking shot near the end of the film, you know, at Tony Stark's funeral, it's a long shot going between all these groups of superheroes, and you kind of look at like how Tony has impacted them in his own special way. Like there's a lot of emotional moments in this film that, you know, you don't have to see every single film in the Marvel Universe to feel invested in, or to feel an emotional connection with the characters, or to get a little teary-eyed. Now, I think a basic praise point I can give this film is if you just convert the average time of a film with the average price of a ticket to go see that film, dollar to time ratio, Endgame is pretty fucking good. You get a lot of entertainment for your bucks. Now, the problem with this, one of the issues I did have with the film is it is really slow to build up. I mean, we're talking, they don't really figure shit out until like 2 hours into the film. And at that point, there's like an hour and 20 minutes still left. But you need that buildup, because at the end of Infinity War, shit went down, and there needed to be like a fallout. There needed to be consequences that we all saw and felt, and there was right after. You know, all the characters kind of reconvene. All the ones who are left, they go out and find Thanos, but it appears he's just trying to live a humble life after he's destroyed the stones, used the stones to destroy the stones, and they kill him quickly after that, and each kind of go their separate ways. And then it jumps to 5 years later, and like the world is still hurt by, you know, half the population being destroyed. And all the characters are like trying to find their own meaning and trying to help other people find meaning in this world that has, you know, has just been torn asunder. And I think it's really good to have that build up, because if we didn't see consequences from what happened, then the ending from the last movie wouldn't be all that impactful. And it was also an interesting choice for them to like overpower Thanos almost instantly and kill him, when in the last film he was just such a badass and took so many blows.
All that for a drop of blood.
But, you know, something is still missing in everyone's life, and they can't help but think, what if there's a way to undo what was done? Which basically leads to the next, you know, 45 minutes of the film where they're trying to figure out how to undo the things that happened. You know, Ant-Man kind of comes out of nowhere, which, by the way, the actor who plays him, can't remember his name, did a fantastic job. I didn't see the Ant-Man movies, but you can kind of get it right away that he's like this almost irrelevant character in the bigger picture of things, but is actually super important in helping the plot progress and the characters resolve this whole conflict. I could understand and like tell what his character is, even though I haven't seen his movie. Now, the difference is, side note, I did not get that feeling with Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel was just kind of like some generic, like, I'm gonna win. You know, girl, it's like, who are you? Why do I care? I don't know, she didn't really help, but that's a discussion for later down the line. Anyways, comedy is pretty great. I got totally sidetracked, but we have come full circle. I cannot believe they put Fortnite into this movie. Well, I can believe it, because first they put Thanos into Fortnite, then they put Fortnite into Thanos, more or less. But that whole scene with Thor and like his alien buddies playing Fortnite on PS4 was fucking hilarious. The fact that they had Noob Master and then 69, Noob Master 69 is so classic. That is your classic gamer tag right there. Fucking hilarious. But only problem was you can't actually like talk shit to people in Fortnite unless they're on your team. So comedy for the most part is subdued. Like Infinity War was way more comedic, and I felt like the jokes in that film hit way harder, you know.
What master do you serve? What master do I serve? What am I supposed to say, Jesus?
And it had a tragic ending that left us all guessing and thinking. I mean, we pretty much knew that, like, more or less everyone was going to come back and life returns to normal and it's a normal, happy ending. It's not exactly, but we'll get to that. But you know, Infinity War is more or less like an action comedy sort of film, whereas Endgame dives more into the plight of humanity angle. It's much more somber. You know, I'll give obvious points for like special effects, cinematography, the lighting, all the technical aspects of filmmaking were nailed to a T, as of course they always are with these types of movies. The user interface though, let me tell you about that. I'm just kidding, the user interface was great. So yeah, about an hour and a half in, they come up with the solution of time traveling back into the past at certain points where they knew the Infinity Stones were at to get them all, return back to the present, and, you know, use the stones to undo what Thanos has done. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. The entire, like, Avengers headquarters gets leveled by Thanos, who comes back from the past. The whole time-traveling aspect, in a lot of films, it is very confusing, and in this one, not so much. Now, one criticism I do have is Avengers Endgame is pretty heavy on the movie references at certain points. They're like, listen up, Terminator, Back to the Future. It's like the characters are jumping straight through the screen. They're booking it up right to your seat, elbowing you on the side, and are like, hey, you remember this film? Remember Back to the Future and Terminator? So it was a bit heavy-handed in the movie references.
I do not want another single pop culture reference out of you for the rest of the trip, you understand?
But the time travel aspect was really cool. I thought it was hilarious the way it hopped back to the older films and kind of like showed what was happening there with characters who were there presently. It was neat to see that, especially the Captain America versus Captain America fight. One thing Endgame does really well is the emotional moments, you know? There's a lot of moments where you just, you feel something. Tony Stark talking to his dad in the past, talking about children and all that. Spider-Man and Tony Stark reuniting and then, you know, him dying shortly after. And Peter Parker is kind of like, now the tables have completely turned on that. I thought that was the most emotional moment for me in the film. Their dynamic is really strong. There was Black Widow's death, you know, getting the Soul Stone with Hawkeye. Emotional and powerful too. Gamora and Quill reunion was emotional at first, but then it becomes comedic, which, you know, was perfect for that and those two characters. You know, the whole sort of vibe you get from the movie is everyone at this point, everyone who's left, has lost someone or something that, you know, made them who they are. Everyone is less than whole, and the whole point of the film is them all chasing that aspect. So there's a lot more in-depth coverage on the handful of characters who are left alive at the end of Infinity War, and I thought that was really great. You know, it got to flesh them all out, and it was pretty dynamic. You know, the cast was more or less cut down for the first 80% of the film. Infinity War spread out the screen time pretty evenly amongst all the characters, and in Endgame, it's, you know, very slanted towards this group, right? The drawback of this style is, you know, Groot was in like a scene where I think he just ran and like didn't do anything for the rest of the film, and that was like his only thing. He said, "I am Groot" once, so basically had like 5 seconds of screen time. A lot of other characters, you know, pretty much didn't do anything except appear at the final battle, which was epic. It was almost like a retry, like let's redo this fight, which I thought was really cool, and the ending is just fantastic. Now, I was curious about why in Infinity War Hulk like couldn't turn into the Hulk, and it's kind of explained, but not to my satisfaction. Basically, Hulk has become this chill nerd in his Hulk form, and, you know, he talks about like, yeah, I used to think Hulk was like a disease, and I guess that maybe explains it, but not really. Like, anyways, that's another small gripe I had. In comparison to the previous movie, I do like Infinity War a little bit more. I felt like the ending was way more powerful because we didn't know who was going to come back exactly, and it kind of cheapens the ending of that film to see, you know, 90% of the characters come back perfectly fine. You know, Captain America is old and withered at the end of this movie, having gone back in time and enjoyed his life. Black Widow is gone for good. You know, Hulk got his arm fucking burnt to a crisp, so, you know, maybe he can't use that arm again. Tony Stark dies. You know, Hawkeye misses Black Widow. So even though most of the characters remain alive, they are very much damaged At the end, of course, Thanos gets snapped by Iron Man, who steals all the Infinity Stones. There's a lot of great action, and, you know, they try to transport the Infinity Stones to the time machine, and a bunch of stuff happens in this final climactic battle before Iron Man essentially sacrifices himself to kill Thanos and stop this war and, you know, wrap things up. And that's pretty much what makes Avengers Endgame so awesome. It's just a perfect blend of climactic and epic with those sprinkled in parts of touching and emotional moments. The film is much more somber overall. You know, emotions are just running high. It's like, this is the end of everything that we've done up until this point. This is what we have to show you at the end of all these films, all these stories. You know, Infinity War was like the introduction to everyone colliding together, and Endgame is more or less, you know, finishing things up. The one criticism I do legitimately have was a necessity, and that was the runtime. This is the longest superhero film ever made, I think, and it really needed to be in order to tell the story that the writers wanted to tell. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. I enjoyed your cameo. Side note, Captain Marvel, very boring, very bland. Not a great addition to the cast. Didn't really add anything. Kind of disappeared for like 2 hours. Said she was going to go kill Thanos and then, like, didn't do anything. And, you know, comes back 2 hours later after being in space, jerking off or whatever, and then just, like, destroys Thanos' ship. You know, she was pretty much a plot device. I think that's all she really was. And, yeah, not very interesting at all. Captain Marvel just didn't add anything to the movie. So it's good that she didn't get much screen time. And in a nutshell, that is why Avengers Endgame is so awesome. And those are pretty much my thoughts on the movie. But what do you think? What did you think of the ending, or the characters, or the plot, or anything? Did you enjoy the film as much as I did? And what did you think of my review? I'm gonna try and make this as interesting as possible after the fact, so we'll see, fingers crossed. I would like more avenues open to record and do content, you know? But that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace! You know, I think this type of content could go a long ways. I might have to take the channel in a new direction. 'Cause this is too damn good.